Have you ever wondered if you're overeating? Today we're talking a little bit about mindful eating. It's something that we talked about previously on this show, but today we're just going to give you a couple quick tips and lean more into the mindfulness conversation as something that's really positive and some things that we can take away and learn from this article. So, hey everyone, this is Aaron and Juwan, and you're listening to Wellness for Real People. This show is for people who are on the go, busy, and looking for ways to live their best lives. We focus on wellness topics in mindfulness, exercise, diet, and sleep, and share quick actionable tactics to improve your health and wellness. We're not perfect, but we're trying to get a little better each day. Let's grow on this journey together. First and foremost, to get into the article says it's about overeating, mindfulness exercises that may help with that, and we're going to talk about that. So just to give you a quick heads up, there's a lot of discussion around overeating in the article. We'll link that in the show notes so you can have that for your own reference. But we're going to talk a little bit more on the mindfulness side. So they say mindful eating is essentially based in the mindfulness practice. Mindfulness is the practice of being present in the moment, observing the inputs, flooding your senses, and how do you actually shape that around your mealtime? So thinking about instead of being on your phone, watching TV, being distracted by a million things, focus on how the food looks, how it tastes, how it smells, how about the texture, what memories does it bring up, or how does it make you feel if you have any insights and feelings. And the reason why mainly is because being mindful at meals will slow the eating process. You'll pay more attention to your body's hunger and fullness cues. Personally, sometimes I don't pay as much attention, and that's when I notice that I'm overeating, because I've definitely had something in front of me and just devoured it without thinking about it. And a lot of people commenting say, "Oh, you eat really fast." I just never thought about that being a problem until I realized there's some other implications with eating too fast. And also, the biggest one in this article is that eating too fast leads to overeating because you don't give your body enough time to recognize the cues to notice that you're full, you're satisfied, satiated. And so that is kind of where we're getting into today around mindful eating. Joanne, do you have any things to discuss on this one?
Yeah, I thought this was a very interesting concept. Easy to say, a little bit harder to do, but not impossible. This idea of mindful eating, I find it quite fascinating because, like you mentioned, I can just, I'm watching a movie, sitting down watching a movie, I can go through a bag of popcorn like it's absolutely nothing. I could just devour it, right, with no thought or consideration to it. And so I liked this idea of like just being a little bit more intentional about what you're eating, how much you're eating, and the pace at which you're eating to help you just be a little bit be healthier. Ultimately, overall, right? I think as we get older, you know, it's kind of inevitable that we tend to put on a few extra pounds here and there. 1 pound here, a couple pounds this next year. If look up 10 years later, you're like, how did I get here? And so this idea of like, hey, if we're looking to lose a few pounds, one thing we can do certainly is think about just being more mindful when we're eating. Because you mentioned if we can be a little bit more mindful, we can slow down a little bit, we can recognize when we're full, and then we won't necessarily eat as much. And that's kind of one of the key recipes they always talk about when it comes to weight loss. It's just like calories in, calories out, right? And so,
Yep.
if we can, limit the amount that we're eating, overeating, that's just unnecessary. Then that's just an easy hack, easy way to maintain a healthy weight. One strategy that I thought of when we were reading this article that kind of came back to me, that I heard a long time ago, is this idea of eating until you're 80% full. I don't know
Mhm.
exactly which culture came up with that, but this idea of like, when you're eating, if you wait until you're 100% full to stop eating, often it's probably too much, right? Because like
You
you said, it
feel
takes
it. You
time
can
for your
feel that.
body to recognize, your stomach to good to your brain to recognize, hey, I'm full here, right? And so I like that idea of like, another mindfulness technique, just stop at 80%, and you generally tend to be pretty good, pretty satisfied, and end up not hopefully overeating.
Yeah. And the article gives us a couple more tips. One, we kind of talked about it, removing distractions. So, again, watching a movie, turning off your phone, TV, whatever. But also this notion of eating in a peaceful, uncluttered space. And I think what they're trying to get at there is that when you have so many things around you, you might be distracted by all the things on your surface area, your desk, your dining table, whatever it is. And it can also lead to distractions and overeating because you're paying attention to all those other things and not necessarily paying attention to what's in front of you. And then the next tip is pacing yourself for a 20-minute meal. So setting aside that amount of time is important in the sense that it gives you enough time to try to eat mindfully, because if you're rushing, you got to go to the next thing, and you're trying to do something within like 5-10 minutes, you're probably not completely chewing your food. You might be overeating, or you might just be doing something like totally detrimental and try to do too many things at the same time, which causes a lot of other problems. But the article recommends chew your food slowly and try to put down your fork between bites. That's hard to do. Yeah, it's hard to do because that is the intention and the focus behind mindfulness, is to say I'm actually thinking about what I'm doing versus just like devouring it and just keep going, 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 going. And so something that I want to try as
Yeah.
I read this article is this habit of like setting that time aside and then putting my fork down. I'm gonna just try that, just to see what happens. That's gonna be my takeaway from this one. I know you had something on this one, Juwan.
Yeah, no, I just tried it before we pressed record. I had lunch a little bit ago, and yeah, and it was quite interesting. I didn't really, like you said, I'm usually just one after another, just spooning,
Yep.
just hauling it into my mouth, right? And so I actually tried to put the fork down in between bites, and it was interesting. It's something I didn't realize that just like you said, how fast I tend to eat, and yeah, and it was interesting just to give myself a little pause and a break to, like you said, actually fully enjoy, appreciate, and fully chew the food in my mouth before I go back and put another, scarf another spoonful or forkful of food into my mouth. So yeah, I love to hear your experiences with it. Maybe next week, but
Yeah, and we'll get back to it because we always circle back on some of these topics. So we will have a topic coming up around diet. So definitely we'll bring that up next time we run through our next session. Cool. And then lastly, just as some bonuses, the article gives us a few more mindfulness exercises to try. And I thought the really beneficial thing here was that it leans into some of the things we talked about previously, and then some new things. So one was focused breathing. We've talked about that before, where you breathe in and out slowly, allowing your belly to expand with each out breath, allowing your belly to go in, promoting relaxation. But then some other things that are kind of new for me, like trying to focus heavily on progressive muscle relaxation. So in that exercise, they say you tighten and release one major muscle group at a time for 20 seconds. Never actually tried this, but they say as you release a contraction, notice how it feels for the muscles to relax. And the point there is being focused in the moment and being in tune with your body and what's happening. And I think that's like one of those things where I don't really think about doing. I'm always kind of doing something with my hands, but just to try that one would be really impactful. And then I got a couple more. I don't know, Juwan, if you want to hit these last couple ones before we close it out.
yeah, one of our favorite topics on this show comes up over and over again. Walking. It says
Yeah.
take a mindful walk, even if it's just for 5 minutes, but use that time to engage your senses. Take in your surroundings. Look at the colors on the leaves on the trees, or is there a smell of freshly cut grass in the air? Right now, as we're recording this, it's springtime, right? So there's new flowers blooming, right? What are the scents and smells and sights, sounds that you're hearing on your walk? Do you feel a breeze on your skin? So going back to your point a little bit earlier around just being fully present and engaged in the moment, and I think that's just something that's free and accessible that we can do, that can make a big difference, even if it's just as the article suggested, just 5 minutes, to kind of reset in between meetings, right? Instead of going back to back to back to back, just take a break, pause, relax a moment, be mindful, right? So you can be even more engaged for the rest of the day and the other things that you have going on. The next suggestion was to practice yoga or Tai Chi as a more of a physical practice. When we've talked about both of those on the show prior, past episodes, but they say both of these practices include both deep breathing and a focus on body sensations, so you get that mind and body connection going. And the last suggestion was to keep a journal, write down the details of your day, try to include a variety of sensations, the sight, sound, smells, and textures you touched. So those are just some simple mindfulness exercises to just get into that daily practice, that daily habit of trying to be a little bit more mindful, that mindfulness muscle, if you will, that
Mhm.
can help in so many different aspects of our life. This particular article, we're talking about mindful eating, and the value of doing that. And so I really enjoyed it. It's a very short article, as you mentioned earlier. We'll link to it in the show notes. It's a great article from the folks over at Harvard Health. Any last thoughts you wanted to close us out with, Aaron?
No, I think you just hit on the head. The last thing they talk about is this one is important and something we talk about a lot too in terms of like trying to make these small changes. They say don't worry about trying to be mindful all day long. That's hard to do. You still got stuff to do. I get it. I get it. They say start with a moment here and there and build gradually. So that's really important for us. It's something that we talk about all the time. Small steps, small changes, then you start seeing some impact and you might add a little bit more or just enough. You don't have to overdo it either. So thought that was a good way to close it out. I just want to thank everyone again for joining us on Wellness for Real People. I'm Aaron. My co-host is Jawan. We'll see you again soon on the next episode. Take care, everybody.